Hello everyone, Bible believers around the world. This is just a quick little video I wanted to put out before I have to go out and run some errands for today. The title of today's topic today is What Does the Bible Say About Diversity in the Kingdom, or commonly referred to as Heaven? Now, a lot of these street corner camps teach that Gentiles can't have salvation and that heaven is only for Israelites, which couldn't be further from the truth. In this short little video, I'm just going to be going over some of the instances in the scriptures where the Bible clearly tells us that heaven is going to be a racially diverse place. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, now we're going to be starting off at Revelation chapter 7. Now, one thing that a lot of these street corner camps do is they're not really about teaching Yah's word in full. It's about grabbing a handful of scriptures that support their doctrine. Now, one thing that they will often teach is in Revelation chapter 7, where it talks about the 144,000 of the different Israelite tribes. But they make sure to never read down and see what the Most High starts telling us in verse 9. And I'm going to be reading verse 9 right now. So we can obviously see that right above verse 9, the scriptures was just talking about the 144,000 of the Israelites, and the different numbers of Israelites in each tribe being sealed. But is it just Israelites here, or are there another people here? So let's go down past chapter 5, which most people do not do. Verse 5. And let's look at this. And after this, behold, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations. Now, this is something I'm going to have to do some other time, but I'll break it down a little bit here. Israel is one nation. Just because you're scattered doesn't mean your nationality changes. If you are an Israelite in the Middle East and you wake up in Antarctica tomorrow, you're still an Israelite. So Israel is not all nations. You can't say all nations and then say Israel, because Israel is one nation. And even when the northern and southern kingdom broke up, you're still Israelites and you're still one nation of people. So all nations is referring to Gentiles, people of other nationalities or other races, and kindreds, and people, and tongues. So of all nations, of all kindreds, and people, and tongues, all right? And they stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Now, we all know who the Lamb is, all right? So let's just look at this. Does this sound like heaven is not going to be a diverse place? It most certainly will be. We can already see a great multitude which no man could number. We know all nations, all kindreds, and people, and tongues. And they're worshiping the Most High. They're worshiping the Most High. And let's read that again. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God. So they're not saying, their God is Krampus or their God is Molech. Clearly, these are righteous believers, because they wouldn't be here in the first place. These are believers of different races who made it to the end. All right? And this is something why I had a falling out with a lot of people from the camps. It's because I love the whole Bible. Here's one thing I want to bring up right here. The Bible is meant to restore us as people. I always found it interesting how when I would be around these, when I watch these people who do these camp videos or talk with people who support these camps, they never find anything in the Bible that corrects them. They're always trying to rebuke somebody else. And I always find it interesting on how come you never find anything to improve yourself? Because the Bible is all about making ourselves better people. And it's kind of strange that you're so perfect and you never find nothing in the Bible that speaks to you. And they always never read this stuff. They just act like it doesn't exist. But let's move on to another example. So we already know, great multitude, no man can number, all nations, all kindreds, and people, and tongues. All right, we know that. Okay, now we're at a different book of the Bible. We are at the book of Amos in chapter 9, and we're going to be reading verse 11 and 12. I always make sure to give the verses when I do these teachings because I want you Gentiles out there who are growing and wanting to get to know the Most High to have this armor, because the Bible talks about putting on the armor of God and that the scriptures are sharper than a double-edged sword, because the only protection you're going to get is from the Most High and his scriptures. So I really want to make sure I show you guys where this stuff is. And also for any Israelites who might be watching who might have had a similar situation to me, where you came out of the camps because you realized they weren't teaching the Bible in full and they were only teaching the stuff that they liked, but the stuff they didn't like, they just put away. But there's nowhere in the scriptures where it says only read the parts of the Bible that you like. It's just not there. And I'll do something, on the channel about the dietary laws and the commandments a little bit later, but I'm sure most people were not happy to hear that pork is an unclean food, but yet we read it anyway. So I don't understand the doctrine of not reading the Bible when it doesn't fit your doctrine or you don't like it. But enough about that. Let's get started. All right, verse 11. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that has fallen, and close up the branches thereof, and I'll raise up his ruins, and I'll build it as in the days of old, that it may possess the remnant of Edom. That's very key. For one thing, the camps don't even know who the real Edomites are. And on top of that, they say that the Edomites can't have salvation when Amos is literally telling us that Edomites are going to be in the kingdom, living in the tabernacle of David. So there you go right there. And all of the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. So it says, and all of the heathen that are called by my name. So this is very similar to Revelation, what we just got reading, which is talking about that there's people of different nationalities or races of people who serve the Most High, who keep the commandments, who love the Bible. And I've seen this. I've seen this firsthand. And I feel like it's a myth that a lot of these camps are putting out there, that there's not Gentiles who want to serve God. There's not Gentiles who want the truth. There's not Gentiles who are keeping the commandments and the Passover and all this. Because if there wasn't, why are there so many prophecies about different types of people being in the kingdom? Why would that be a case? Why would that be the case? Because if the Most High knew that nobody of a different race was going to have interest in serving him, then these wouldn't even be there. So that's very interesting right here. And this is also, Paul quotes this in the New Testament as well. So you can find it in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. But I went to the Old Testament version right here. Okay, now I'm in Isaiah chapter 56. Now this is not specifically about the kingdom or heaven, but it's going to talk about the Most High's acceptance of different races of people who take hold of his covenant and live according to his righteous ways. Because this is another verse that's never talked about, which I find interesting because Isaiah is one of those books that's commonly used in the camps because it has a lot of, good Israelite talk in it, talks a lot about, the Israelite people and, our customs and all that type of stuff. So people are very familiar with Isaiah, and this is one of the things that, this is one of the reasons why me and the camps, don't get along. But I find it interesting how I get how a lot of them don't even read the New Testament. It's because they hate even seeing the word Gentile associated with something good. So most of them, some of them I hardly ever see them even quote the New Testament. Some don't even believe it at all. As for the Old Testament, a lot of the Old Testament only camps, they don't even follow. They don't even like this. They don't even go to Isaiah 56, which it goes back to the scriptures are to be treated with equal respect. Every verse, every fragment, every book. Don't matter what I like. Don't matter what you like. Don't matter what Carl likes. Don't matter what Lily likes. Don't matter what Jackson likes. Don't matter what Mary likes. It's the truth if we like it or not, and that's the Most High's word. But let's get started. We're going to start at verse 1 and read down. Thou, says the Lord, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Verse 2, blessed is the man that doeth this, and the son of man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, keepeth his hand from doing any evil. Neither let the son of the stranger that has joined himself to the Lord speak, saying, the Lord has utterly separated me from his people. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. Down to verse 4. For thou, says the Lord, unto the eunuchs that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant, even unto them will I give in my house within my walls a place and a name better than sons and of daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Also the sons of the stranger that join themselves to the Lord, to serve him, and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants. Everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, taketh hold of my covenant. So this is very important right here. The Sabbath is very important. And this is why, I remember it was a discussion a few years ago among some Israelites. And it was like, are Gentiles required to keep Passover and Sabbaths for salvation? And the answer is yes. It's because the Sabbath is very special to the Most High. And it literally talks about people of other nations. When they keep the Sabbath, that is the sign that they are converted. That is a sign of the covenant. The Sabbath can never be thrown away. And it should never be underestimated how important the Sabbath is. All right, verse 7. Even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. House of prayer for all people. All people. So there's your South Korean, your North Korean, your Japanese, your Chinese, your Filipino, your Indonesian, your Vietnamese, your English, your German, your French, your Russian, your Portuguese, your Nigerian, your Ethiopian, your Afghan, literally everything. Literally everything. And I'm going to go back up for a little bit and talk about the stranger, because some people try and say that the strangers are Israelites, but we know that is false, because this was, for one thing, before the breakup of the northern and southern kingdom, so these would not be Israelites. And also, when you go into the Strongest Concordance, it literally, the word used is alien, and I think one of the ones I saw was non-Israelitish. And when you look into it, there's instances of Ruth the Moabitess being called a stranger.